Anyway, we're back, Simon. We're going to talk a little bit more about the mod revival, because not only was it a lot of shoes, we got a question from Finbob. What defines a mod shoe?
Good question.
Oh, gosh.
Andy, over to you.
Yeah, good luck with that one, yeah.
Well, in 79, I think you'd look at what the Jam wore, and, well, they are obviously mod shoes. But in the 60s, it was desert boots, loafers, brogues.
Well, there's some pictures of guys in trainers and bits and pieces. I mean, there's the talk of the bowling shoes.
Yeah.
I have a theory about bowling shoes because I believe that they were kind of colourful and they were a cheap way. They were casual. And there was, to my mind, I don't know that there are any casual shoes around. So if you wanted a sports shoe, which is a kind of I can see why the Flash would work with them and stuff like that.
I remember back in like 79, 80, if you wanted a pair of training shoes, you'd go to a sports shop because the menswear shops didn't sell them.
No, of course
so
not.
Adidas was sold in sports shops, as was Fred Perry.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy Fred Perry in a menswear shop.
No.
And jeans, you couldn't buy in a menswear shop. You bought it from Millet's or somewhere like that, a jean shop. So there were all different shops that you
had to kind of put the thing together, didn't you?
Yeah, and then Parker's would have been Army and Navy store.
Well, let's neatly get onto the Parker. So we talked about what we were going to talk about before, and some of what we were talking about is, I think a lot of it's to do with the Jam, and some people say, oh, it's boring. You know, there's all the chords and all the Secret Affair and all that stuff around, and two-tone as well. But I think the Jam was just so huge as a band. And seeing Weller on that All Mod Cons album, he's wearing a Parker. It was the complete image, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the 60s, obviously, this is the one they would have worn in the 60s. So this is an M51. That's an M65. So this is a Korean War one. Now, the way you can tell is it's got epaulets. This is the one that Jimmy would have worn in Quadrophenia.
Okay.
The hood is actually attached to it. The lining, this is very knackered, actually. I got it off, this is an original 60s mod that I bought it off.
Oh, wow, cool.
So it's a bit knackered. But the lining is attached to it. There would have been an alpaca detachable lining, and there would have been some lining in the hood.
Yeah.
Because apparently in Korea it was freezing cold. So the original 60s mod would have worn a 51. Whereas this is an M65, which is probably more the 79, 80, because this would have been second hand because it's 1965. So this has the detachable lining, the detachable hood, which is somewhere in my cupboard under the stairs, with the white fur and the metal in there. I couldn't find it. But these aren't the ones that I had. The one that I had, my brother's nicked, and that's in his attic, and he won't let me have it back. And I think it's a 51. But,
okay.
They were really hard to find. There was an Army and Navy shop in Ely.
There's one in Cambridge as well. But
yeah, the Cambridge one was really good, but the Ely one never had a Parker.
You had to go in at a certain time.
Yeah.
You know, because he obviously didn't have them all. He didn't there wasn't a cash and carry to go and buy these things.
No.
He got them.
Sherry's not Shelley's, so Sherry's is still going, Peter and Bubbles. Peter told me the story that in 1979, 1980, he would buy a load of old Parkers. There'd be a pile on the floor. They're all 10 quid. All the mods would pile in, just grab one, not even try it on.
Yeah.
So they'll all be different shapes and sizes. He said he used to sell hundreds of them. So,
there's pictures of a particularly young lad. I'm not trying to make this because I'm hardly thin, but there's a really good picture of a kind of a little tubby guy who's about 11 years old, and he's wearing a Parker.
Oh, it's massive.
It's about 16 sizes.
They just didn't try them on. They just grabbed them, took them out, and they could be all shapes and sizes.
But it comes back to that thing which I was on about before, which is you wore those Jam shoes, and you were. This is my gang. This gang.
I think in those days, you look at all the tribes, and you could tell the minute you saw someone what music they were into, whether they're rude boy, skinhead,
very true,
rockabilly. You know, you wore your badge on your arm. You know, it was so obvious what you were into.
But interesting. Simon's brought in 2 suits. Now I think this is interesting because the Jam got smarter, and as we kind of all got older, we progressed to better things, and not being rude to Weller, he got better, he got smarter.
Did you know? Rick Buckley told me this. That they only had one black suit, which they had made from
this story,
Burton's.
Yeah.
So when they went on tour to America, they had one black suit, and they did 3 shows a day.
Yeah.
And they were just covered in sweat. And the dad, John, he washed them, and that's how they got that short trousers, short. And that's the look we wanted, which was the short trousers and the short little jackets. But it's because they washed them. So, you know, I mean, I was on £26 a week. I couldn't afford a suit. So this was my uncle's wedding suit. So he got married. He gave me this suit, and I had it tailored so it fitted. I could never get in it now. I was a lot thinner then. But it's interesting that it's a 4-button suit. We always reference the 3-button suit. You know, sometimes, always, never. I don't know what we do with the bottom one. But yeah, this was made by Burton's. He got married, and then this other suit, which is my top trump suit. So this one I found probably about 10 years ago in a charity shop. So this is a Harry Bilgori suit. Yep. So Mark Bolan references Harry Bilgori as the tailor of the mods. And there is the label in there from 1966.
But this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it flips over. And it goes from being, say, just Jam fans who could buy stuff off the peg.
Yeah.
And if you stayed with it, I mean, I had a few suits, but I never got to that league. Yeah. There's people like Smarler and some of the Shepherd's Bush guys.
You would have found this in a charity shop.
Yes,
so
of course.
You probably wouldn't have it made to measure. No. If you were lucky, you would find a 3-button mod suit in a charity shop because you just couldn't afford.
Yeah, in the mid-80s, I think my pay packet was like 50 quid.
Yeah.
It was enough to keep my scooter going.
Yeah.
To throw in like a homemade, as much as I might have desired it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it wasn't going to happen.
Have the money, did you?
No.
You know.
Some people did. I've met people who were kind of had money at the time. But it's But just tell us some stories. You said you went down Carnaby Street when you were meant to be working.
Yes, well, yeah, I was a window dresser working for John Lewis, and our trip was to go to London to get inspiration for the windows. So Selfridges and Harrods. Of course, we never went. We went straight down Carnaby Street and the King's Road. And at the time, it was amazing because I was living in Ely, and you couldn't buy any mod clothes really in Ely. Cambridge had Barney's, didn't it? You could buy Stay
Bagstall, Barnes and Barney's.
That's it. And then you had Dave Pink's shop.
Yep.
And then you had a few shops that did it, but not many. There's someone selling Ben Sherman.
But sorry, sorry to butt in, but that's my dad was telling me. Even in the '60s, you would have had to go to different places to put the look together.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You had to be quite resourceful. He said you'd get Chelsea boots from one place, and you'd get things. And even a '79, some of the guys have been putting on, and people watching the show were saying, even in Nottingham, they had to go to several different shops to kind of, which seems ludicrous now.
Yeah.
You know, we run a shop called Mod Shoes where you could walk in and walk out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, my first trip to Carnaby Street, I couldn't believe it because there was Melandi's, there was Carnaby Cavern, there was Shelley Shoes, and they had all the clothes that you saw people on Top of the Pops wearing.
Yes.
Because that's where they would have bought them.
Yeah.
And you could buy them. It was incredible.
It was really.
I couldn't believe it.
No,
and even the King's Road, I mean, they had a lot of modding shops down there as well. I mean, you had
Lloyd Johnson's.
Yeah, Lloyd Johnson's at the bottom with American Classics for second-hand Levi. You had Vivian Westwood's shop down there. Boy, there were a lot of independent stores down there. It's all changed now, but it's fantastic.
So the look. It's interesting you say about that because I always think about the look. I remember scrapping around in charity shops in Cambridge and rarely finding anything. I mean, certainly by the mid-80s. I think in London perhaps it probably been easier because there would have been just more people, you know, and it'd been brought together. Right, Simon, I think we're nearly at the end of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good for that. I want to thank Simon for coming on and doing some of that.
You're welcome.
Have we got any questions? Did Tom Hoy ask a question for Simon?
Tom the Mod.
Apologies, I'm on a delay.
Yeah.
Tom Hoy did ask a question. Very good question, actually. He said one for you both. Who had the best shoes of the mod revival?
Who had them out of me and Andy? Me.
I think he means in general. Was there someone that was there a celebrity?
Well, I suppose Shelley's had the best shoes. I would say.
Well, they had the best shoes. I mean, does he mean like band? Does he mean like Weller having the best shoes? Or
probably. The shoe
Purple
shop
Hearts were always very good dressers.
Yeah, and the shoe shop Revell always had really good shoes.
Yes, Revell, which starts as Rules.
Yeah.
Keith, and apparently I asked Dougal Butler, who was the Who's Keith Moon's driver, and him and Moon used to go to Revell's to buy their shoes. Rules to buy their shoes. Good. So to answer your question, I probably, as much as a Chords fan I am, the Purple Hearts had some really cool outfits. I know Buddy's going to scream at me next time I see him when I say about that, but they did. They had some real pop art stuff.
Yeah.
They had some really good looking stuff. They always kind of look fab.
Yeah.
Other than the Jam, I think.
Yeah, I suppose it would be.